Welcome to the first ever episode of History of Rock. In this episode I'll be exploring the history of the chaotic band, the Sex Pistols. In the 1970s, England was dull and boring and nothing really was going on. The 60s was over and pirate radio was shut down, and the government had finally got their way. The rich were rich and the poor were poor, and they thought the poor would stay in their place. But how wrong they were. On King Street in London, a little clothes shop owned by Malcolm McLaren, the future myth manager of the Sex Pistols, would help to change that all. Two young boys spent a lot of time in the shop, young Steve Jones and Paul Cook. These two boys were schoolyard friends who were trying to get Malcolm to become the new manager of their band. However, they were missing their bass player. Malcolm had a 15-year-old boy working at the shop, young Glenn Matlock, who was learning to play bass. They were still missing their lead singer, and in comes the young rebel, John Lydon, soon to be known as Johnny Rotten. After Malcolm was able to convince John to join the band, they took him to the pub to get to know the guy, to realise they fucking hate him. But anyway, they took him back to Malcolm's shop Sex, where they stuck him at the jukebox and gave him a showerhead, and stuck on 18 by Alice. John made the song his own, with his own unique voice, aka he couldn't sing, and they found it funny. So there we go. The first ever lineup of the Sex Pistols, and the first beginnings of England's chaotic next 2.5 years. After a while, the Pistols started getting a following, those followers being called punks. Punks wore and did what they want. It was seen in the first time in a long time that teens could really show who they really were for their fashion and how they did their hair. After the punks took over England, record labels wanted to have a piece of the punks, and the first company to grab the Sex Pistols was EMI. They signed them to a 2-year contract that gave them £40,000 and released their first single, Anarchy in the UK. After they went on the Bill Grundy show instead of Queen, they caused outrage with Steve and John swearing on primetime TV.
We fucking spent it, didn't we? Nothing, a rude word. Next question.
No. What was the rude word?
Shit.
This is everything the Pistols needed. Free publicity for them acting like anarchists. It got them fame and fortune. But sadly, after 90 days, EMI dropped them for jumped up charges of throwing up on a plane, which had been proven to be utter bollocks. After leaving EMI, sadly Glenn left the band for personal reasons. So, there was a gap in the band that needed to be filled, and John knew the perfect person, his old friend, John Simon Ritchie, soon to be known as Sid Vicious after John's hamster. So, we had the newest member of the Sex Pistols, ready to go, but they were missing one major component, a record label. In comes A&M. And probably the shortest time a band's ever spent with a record label. A&M gave the Pistols £50,000 and sent them off to record their tribute to the Silver Jubilee, God Save the Queen. But after a day, they were kicked from the label. By A&M, Virgin picked up the Pistols, and the Pistols were able to release their new single, God Save the Queen, just in time for the Silver Jubilee. So they got on a boat, headed up to the House of the Parliament, and played their new song. Until the police showed up and arrested most people, including Malcolm McLaren, thanks to John pointing at him and saying, "That is Johnny Rotten." After this, God Save the Queen was pulled from the charts, and it should have been number 1. But the government can't have that, now can they? In 1977, the Pistols released their first studio album, Nevermind the Bollocks. After it was released, it caused chaos around the country, and got sent to court, and the Pistols had to go to defend their use of the word bollocks. Obviously, the Pistols won, after proving the word meant nothing, and they could use their word any way they wanted. So, thanks to the government, the album had free publicity and sold more copies than it would originally. Early 1978, the Pistols headed over to America for their first American tour, where they caused chaos everywhere they went, from Sid calling rednecks fags to fights breaking up in the crowd and on stage. But the final moments of the tour saw the end of the Sex Pistols in San Francisco with John's final words.
Ever get the feeling you've been cheated? Good night.
After the Pistols ended, a new battle had just begun between John and Malcolm over the money and rights to the band. John wanted the rights to the song that he had put so much effort into and the money that he earned while being in the band. And Malcolm had stolen from the band and John. John eventually won the battle and started his new band, Public Image Limited, that he's still doing today. Steve stayed over in America and continued with his music. Paul came back to England and continued with his music. And Sid sadly died of a drug overdose after being accused of killing his girlfriend in the Chelsea Hotel in America. Thank you for watching the first ever episode of History of Rock. Subscribe for more, go and support us on Patreon, and join us next week when Seb will be talking about a more modern band. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.